Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's go. Welcome back to a guest episode. This is the first one we've really been digging into in a while. And, I got somebody very special for you guys. This is a person, Jackie's her name, by the way. We're going to bring her in a second. But this is a person who we had heard each other's names for quite a little bit of time. All right, I had seen her on the gram. She had been hearing my name in our circles, and we just had to find a time to meet. And it was funny. We didn't end up meeting in a mastermind. We didn't end up meeting at any event, but instead we met at a friend's wedding. We literally met at a friend's wedding, which was amazing. And so the first interaction that we had was just superb. The vibes were good. The energy was high. And if you guys like my energy, just wait for Jackie because she's just a bundle of fresh air. All right. And so I want to just do a quick little intro to you, quick little bio, and then she's going to dig in and tell your story. But Jackie Serviss is a seasoned human resources executive and certified executive coach with over a decade of assisting leaders in aligning people strategies and talent acquisition best practices to scale their organization. Now, I am so pumped to bring Jackie onto the show because her story is incredible. But most importantly, you guys are going to learn everything you've ever wanted to know about hiring, when to hire, who to hire, where to hire, and everything in between. So Jackie, enough of me. Welcome to the show.
Oh my goodness. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. So I want to jump into it, right? I give you a quick little bio because your story needs to be told in your own words. So talk to us about how you ended up helping entrepreneurs with their hiring practices, how you ended up working with small business owners. Like, just take me through that journey of how you started to where you got to now.
Love that. And it's a story. So buckle up because we're going to go there and I always keep it real. I like to be authentic and tell the real story. And so buckle up. Here we go. So I started my career right out of university, with PepsiCo. So one of the largest organizations in the world, great fundamentals, lots of incredible training in that environment, and really started to climb the ranks very quickly. And I started to see these really interesting correlations in hindsight with business and my athletic upbringing. So things like you're wearing an LA Dodgers hat. Yes. I know you're a sports fan too. When you grow up an athlete, there's certain fundamentals you create or you take with you. And I looked at the correlation between business and sports and saw so many different correlations or points where frankly they're one and the same. Things like work ethic, resiliency when you fail, getting back up, putting your head down when you need to just grind it out and get it done. These type of things definitely were a pillar of who I was in business from my athletic upbringing. So I was a swimmer. I swam for Canada at a high level. I grew up in a very athletic family. My brother was an all-Canadian football player, all the things. So sports was a big part of my life. Both individual sports and team sports were definitely a big part of my life. And what I started to realize now in hindsight is I was that woman in corporate who was really looking outside of myself for all the answers. I was looking outside of myself for the acknowledgement, for the worthiness, for the pat on the back. Think about sports, right? Think about that coach who gives you that like accolade or like, hey, you really crushed it today in practice, or you made a certain time for me in swimming. I started to seek those things to fill in my insides, to like create worth or worthiness of who I was. And when I was 26 years old, I had finally hit what I thought was this like pivotal moment in my career. I'd put my head down, I had grinded, I had climbed the corporate ladder very quickly. I was stepping into an executive position with a very large organization. And in the same breath, in the same moment, I walked into a doctor's office and that doctor told me I had a brain tumor. And so for me, that was this moment in time, the shift in time that had me fall flat on my tail and start to look around and start to ask the bigger questions in life. What am I here for? What do I want this life to be about? What's the legacy I want to leave? Who do I want to serve? Who do I want to help? And this came on the heels of a very dark night of the soul. It was dark for a while there. I had to kind of find myself back onto my 2 feet. And if you're anything like me and you have a story where there's like this pivotal shift, it felt like flat out sprint, running into a brick wall, hit the ground, stay there for a while, and then find my way, claw my way back up. And I did that in the last decade through multiple different mediums. I did it through books, masterminds, books, my friend, masterminds. I did that through coaches and mentors. I did that through deep inner work. And a decade later, I can say, one, I'm healthy with a brain tumor, which is a beautiful thing. Two, it has also recalibrated my worth and realizing that my worth comes from the inside, not from the external validation. And today I'm able to really take a lot of the lessons learned through lived experiences and apply them to the humans I want to be working with now. So outside of the big corporations, bless, so grateful for the opportunities. But at the end of the day, my crew and my people are entrepreneurs, growth companies, people who want to make big difference in the world. And my job as a people strategist is to help them figure out who they need to surround themselves with to enable that.
Mm. Mm. And your story is like, it's incredible. And, one of the things I think is really interesting is that entrepreneurs, a big part of the entrepreneur game is mindset, right? Mm-hmm. And when you're playing this game, you're playing to win. And we all have different definitions of what winning looks like to us, right? And it's important that you're clear of that in the first place. But a big reason people struggle or they never hit their end game goal is because they don't have the right mindset at the right time of their business. And so before we talk about all the hiring stuff and bringing people together, I want to talk about the mindset and when you started to shift out of that mindset, right? Because you mentioned you ran into the brick wall, you were down on the ground for a little bit and you started picking yourself up and you started doing all the inner work. But what aspect of the mindset was the most important for you to get both your physical, your emotional, and your mental health back to a point that you were like, all right, let's do this. Let's get ready for the next adventure?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that question. Gosh, it always comes back to what's in between the ears, doesn't it?
Always.
And so for me, one of the things that I have continued to lean into is when I start to feel a bit uncomfortable, and come on, we all know the feeling. You feel a little bit of those butterflies in the stomach. You're kind of procrastinating. You're not sure if you really want to do it. Those are the cues for me now to take a step forward and always say yes. So in my past, I might have sought other people's opinions or asked other people like, hey, what do you think about this? Should I do this? Does this look right? Today, I have worked on innately trusting my intuition, my gut, at genuinely understanding like what is that next step for me. And so I always go back and I say, how did I get here from there? I think it's a combo of a lot of yeses and very uncomfortable moments. Small yeses, micro yeses, the small little, I'm going to get up today and I'm going to put my shoes on. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to get up today and I'm going to send one more email. I'm going to get up today, my friend who writes books, and I'm going to write a few more lines. It's the micro movements that in hindsight and a decade looking backwards have made the macro shifts.
Ooh, come on now. If I had a little thing that I could pop off and push the button of explosion of excitement, that would be right there. The micro movements to create the macro shifts. I think that's what you said, right?
I did. That's it.
I like that one. I like that line a lot because that's a lot of the same around writing a book or, if anybody's ever read the book Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg, Stanford professor, that is exactly what it's all about. And so I love that. But I want to dig even deeper here because a lot of people listen to this are entrepreneurs. And some of those gut decisions, those intuition, the uncomfortable situations is investing in yourself. We'll talk about investing in your company, but we'll talk about investing in yourself first. One of the hardest decisions people have to make is I know that to get to the next level, I need to invest in myself. I need to join the coaching program. I need to hire the coach. I need to join the mastermind. And their gut's telling them to do it and they feel it, but then money comes into play. And people start to question the money or start to doubt the money or maybe it's not meant to be. How did you navigate that as you were going through? And how do you still navigate that when your gut's telling you this and you want to trust it? But then how do you take the reality of money and put that into effect?
Yeah, such a great question. I started investing early in myself through this journey. And it started again, micro, right? At first, it could have been, hey, yoga was a big piece of my healing journey. So I invested in a yoga mat to get me into the yoga classes to go and start moving my body. And you start to condition your mind to understand what money really is. To me, money is energy, right? It's this frequency that happens, and I see it very cyclical, in a cyclical way, like a circle. So I'm now in a position where I can look back and say, like, hey, the more I invest in or the more I give, the more that comes back just innately with the law of money, the frequency of money. That was not always my money mindset. I grew up in a house that had a bit of a poor money mindset, if I can be honest. And any fights that were in my family were generally around finances and money. And so I had to recondition and really create a new story about what money was for myself. And it started micro and they got into larger investments over time. Gosh, I've probably invested close to $200,000 in myself and in my business today. And in some of those investments, I actually had to go into a bit of debt to do. So one of my first investments with a mentor who is a mentor to both of us, Chris Harder, at the time, 2019, I was just getting started in my entrepreneurial journey. I had had a successful consultancy. I kind of left that, and I had to make this investment, or I was ready to make this investment into myself. And what I ended up doing is essentially I had enough to pay for a set amount of it, but I was also trusting that getting into that room, surrounding myself with the right people, partnering with the right people, were going to bring the next wave of my clients, my customers, the humans I was meant to serve. And so I get it. Like, I've been there. I've lived that. I know what it feels like to say, like, gosh, I really want to do this $5,000 program. And I'm looking at my bank account and there's 2,000 in it. I know that feeling. And those are the uncomfortable shifts that we start to think about, like, well, what could I do to create that momentum, to create that extra $3,000? Maybe it's in the room, maybe it's not. But if it's not in the room, what do I need to do to take that step towards making sure I'm set up for success?
I enjoyed how you finished that answer. I mean, I enjoyed the whole answer, but I really enjoyed how you finished that, because I believe that when we know in our gut that we need to be doing something, sometimes it's not yes or no. Sometimes it's, what do I need to do to make it a yes? Because in the moment that you have that intuition, it might not be doable at that very moment. But if you don't take a no at face value and you take it as a not yet, a new opportunity, right? And you start to see yourself as someone like, okay, what can I do? And you ask better questions. Well, better questions give you the opportunity to unlock better answers. And those answers is what you're actually seeking. And this is something that I see with people as we start to switch into talking about humans and people and how we go, is we as human beings are innately focused on what's in it for me, right? I heard someone say someone's favorite radio station is WIIFM. What's in it for me, right? And sometimes we take a no and we're like, oh, it's not meant for me. It's not meant for me. But if you start asking yourself, well, what's the cost of me not being in it? That cost is often way more than the cost of finding a way to pay this off. There are loans you can get. There are programs you could do. People are people. We will work with you, right? If you are honest and communicate with yourself and with the person you're looking to do. So I love the way that you just answer that. And I love seeing how your mind works and how it's evolved, because this translates directly over to what you do as a people strategist. If I help businesses and business owners figure out what next to do in their journey. And so I want to dig into that a little bit. When did you realize, I know that you had the consultancy and you had a great corporate career, but when did you realize that helping entrepreneurs and small business owners was the focus for you on helping them grow their business through the people that they serve and the people that they have on their teams?
Yeah. Gosh, you said so many great things there. One of the things that I just really want to focus on is when you ask better questions, you get better answers. Oh, I wish I had that. I need the button now that goes off, because that's such a true sentiment. I left over a decade career in executive HR. Talent was my thing in corporate. Frankly, I ran away from it because I was afraid I would revert back to the woman I was in corporate before I had the brain tumor. So I was resistant to go back to the space. And then I surrounded myself in a room of entrepreneurs and we would talk about business strategy. And I'm so fired up around strat and understanding strat and connecting why people do what they do to the business that they're creating today, and then ultimately where they want to go. And in all of these conversations, we would get to this place, just honestly, energetically, I think I was calling these people into my life that couldn't figure out the who. Who else do I need to enable that growth? I know why I do what I do. Here's where I'm at today. Let's say I'm making $100,000. I know my goal is to make 500, and this is the trajectory of what I'm going to do in my business to get that. But am I doing that alone, or do I need to surround myself with other people in order to enable that growth and really make that bridge? Maybe take that bridge and maybe that's a 3-year plan and break it down into 2, or actually expedite that or make that a little bit faster. And so that's where a lot of the conversation started for me. Is I just kept coming back time and time again to this people enablement. Who do you need to unlock this faster? You can get there on your own, I have no doubt. But back to the money mindset side of things, what I notice in early stage entrepreneurs more time than not is once we start making money, there's this thing that happens when we start to cling to it, because we know what it felt like to have $2,000 in the bank account and we couldn't pay for the $5,000 program. And so when we know that, all of a sudden the what's in it for me is like, heck, I just made 6 figures. Oh my gosh, I made multi 6 figures. And I see this clinging effect that starts to happen. And so I'll just do more. I'll do more. Let's just put that on my shoulders. I can be the finance person, the COO, the CEO, the admin. I can do it all. And so then we have an org structure with one box that has me in the middle. Okay. And I see it so often that when people get to a point where they financially are ready to invest in the next person to enable their growth and to free them up for the next step, what generally happens is this like resistance shows up around, gosh, I got to give some of this money away to another human to help me go do that.
Yeah, I mean, cha-ching. Yes, I've experienced a lot of that myself as I've grown my business. Of like, okay, the first hire is like, okay, I'm making money now. It's finally all working, but now I have to give it some of it away to then get to the next level. And so I want to talk to you because there's a million ways we could go with this, right? We could focus on depending on where you're at in your business, what hires and where. But I want to talk about the entrepreneur who it's starting to click. Right? They're getting going. They're on their way to their first 6 figures. They're entering into the multiple 6 figures. Who do you recommend? And this could be different for every type of business, right? But who is typically the first hire that you see people make? And when in their business do you recommend that they make this?
Yeah, great question. So generally, let's say we're making 6 figures or we're walking towards 6 figures. Here's a misconception I see a lot. When I hire, it has to be a full-time person. And false. Okay. We have creative hiring methods that any level can use. You can step into hiring. Give yourself permission to step into hiring. What could that look like? Well, one of the first hires I always say somebody needs is somebody run the backbone of their business. The backbone means your ops, your operations of your business. Okay. Oftentimes as the entrepreneur, we are the core service, right? You are the talent that helps people write the books. I am the person who hires the people for the company. Those are your core services, whether you're the coach, you're running, a hiring business, you're running an ability to write books. You're the core service of the business. And so often we need to double down on the core service in order to grow and scale our business. What stops us is all the other BS that we got to get done in the business. It's the scheduling, it's the invoicing, it's the sending the contracts, it's our calendar management alone, it's the communication and emails. We get caught up in the back end of our business, or we, frankly, what I used to do, my now COO is like, I'm so grateful for her because I used to do everything manually or like in Excel. And she came in and she's like, there's technology that actually takes all of this out of the picture. And so the backbone can be multiple different layers. Depending where you are, that could be an assistant. That can be an online business manager. That can be an integrator or a COO. And I'm saying that in sequence of like stepping up. So an assistant at kind of the first level, online business manager is a little bit more of a middle manager type of profile. Integrator COO is much more of a strategist and somebody who's thinking with you as the entrepreneur. Okay. And so that's where I always go first. And those investments can start with 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week, and so forth. You can step into hiring. Frankly, it's what I did to start my own business.
How do you, okay, so if I'm listening to this, and I'm hearing this and I'm nervous to make this first hire, right? Yeah. How do you reframe it from, oh, I'm hiring someone and I'm paying them money, right? How do you reframe that to seeing it as an addition to your team and an investment to your team rather than, oh, this is an additional expense that I have to pay?
Yes. I always talk about the enablement of growth. By having somebody work on the back end of your business, let's take this kind of ops or the backbone kind of energy here. What is that freeing up for you? Let me ask you. I actually want to ask you in your business. If you had somebody do all of the administrative work, and you might have this person and all of your scheduling and take on all of your emails, all of the management of that, what would that free up for you, Jake?
I'll tell you for a fact, it has freed up for me a lot of time. And yeah. I'm so grateful for my assistant. She's amazing, but it's given me the chance to go do some of the things at the higher level that only I'm capable of doing in this business at this point of the process. So it's freed up time for me to travel. It's freed up time for me to do more sales calls. It's time for me to do more outreach, do more podcast episodes, do more content. Like, it's freed up a lot of opportunity for me. And that's just the beginning of it.
That's it. A lot of the times when I will go back to somebody 3 months, 6 months down the road of them bringing on this first hire, I say, hey, case study, what has actually happened in your business since then? Oh my goodness. I was able to start selling more because I didn't have to make the sale, stop sales to execute the programming and do all the administrative work. I could just keep that sales funnel on. So I've heard things like, honestly, bringing in an assistant has created another $50,000 in my business. I've heard things like time. I'm able to spend more time with my family. I'm able to invest time in travel. I was able to speak on that stage because I could fit it in the calendar. I was able to create content and podcasts. So instead of thinking about it of like, I'm giving my money away, you are investing in the talent who is ultimately investing in you. They're the ones that are going to create opportunity for you and really change the game and shift and create opportunities to like bridge that gap from where I am today to where I want to go faster. That's what we're doing here with people.
Yeah, I'm thinking of an example, and I'd love to hear your feedback on this and tell me if this is a good way to think about it or maybe it's not a good way to think about it. But let's just say you have a $5,000 offer in your business, right? Coaching, consulting, done for you, agency, whatever it is. Let's say it's $5,000 and you hire somebody at $20 an hour, okay? Mm-hmm. And at first you're kind of thinking like, okay, what is this going to take? Well, to get that, how much is that? 250 hours? No. How many hours is that to get to the $5,000 offer, right? 25 is going to be 500, so 250 hours, right?
Yeah, 250 hours.
So 250 hours basically. Do you think that if you had 250 extra hours that you would be able to sign one more client? How is that example of a way to reframe kind of making an investment into somebody?
I love that. Because now you're actually creating the tangible of, if we are able to, and Chris talks about this a lot, right? Like, create the list of all the things you're doing in your business today. Figure out your hourly rate, Jake and Jackie's hourly rate, and there's some math that we can do to actually get you to that hourly rate. And then look at all of those tasks. Are they worth that? Let's just say my hourly rate is $50 an hour. Okay, that's what I think my rate is. It's $50 an hour. And I see all these tasks I'm doing. And I question if some of these, I circle the actual things that are on my kind of list that don't feel like $50 an hour work. That is literally the creation of your next job description. So and beautiful. You can find somebody that can do it at 20, 25, 30, anything less than your $50 an hour is going to be a win, right? I'm not in the business of bankrupting. I don't like bankrupting businesses to hire talent. You need to be financially set up for success in order to bring on this talent for sustainable growth. That said, there are ways that we can start to make pivots to start to reframe our thinking to realize that this investment is actually the catapult to the next level of growth for myself.
So good. So good. All right. I'm going to put you on the spot here, Jackie, because there's so many questions I have for you that I think are going to be really valuable, but I want to do it in a way where we can ask as many of them. Okay.
Love it.
So I'm
Let's
just
go.
going to spit questions at you. And I just want you to answer. Like whatever comes to mind, just go short, quick answers. If I need elaboration, I'll ask. All right. I want to try something with you. You good? You up for the challenge?
Let's go.
Okay. Top 3 places people can look to make their first hire.
Their own network and referrals. If it's freelancer, I love Upwork, Fiverr, etc. And once we have clarity on who we need to hire, we can always be hiring. The amount of people I have hired in a coffee shop, in line, or at a conference that I've met and I just happen to sit beside, or an airplane is insane. So once you have clarity on who you need, then you can always be hiring.
Oh, I love that. So the answer, more importantly, is the clarity around who you need versus what platform you can go find them. I love that. Okay. Overseas or in your home country, where do you like to hire from?
I've always hired in my home country. I've heard wonderful stories of overseas and some great talent. I've seen lots of businesses built on that foundation as well. For me, I have found when I have tried that, the quality has sometimes been in question. And so I have found that does not need to be in my hometown. My entire team is remote. We get together twice a year physically in person, and we execute a heck of a lot. So don't take this as like it has to be in my backyard. What I like to think is like a remote team that if we put everybody on a plane, we could get together for a week every 6 months or so.
Another great answer there. Okay, let's say you're making this hire and you mentioned 3 roles: assistant, part-time assistant. You mentioned an integrator at the highest level and an OBM, online business manager, as kind of some of the levels of hires. Super quickly, what are some expectations an entrepreneur could have for a general price range for each of those levels?
All right, assistant, think about this person as somebody that you need to tell them what to do. Okay, you're making the task list, they're checking the box. 20 to 30 bucks an hour. Okay, online business manager, this person is bringing ideas to the table, but still needs direction strategically. 30 to 50 bucks an hour, kind of up range of 60 we can see sometimes, depending on how their packages are created. Integrator COO, this person is a strategist with you. They are actually helping you think about the evolution of your business and become the gatekeeper of your business with you. And I mean, honestly, that's priceless when we get to that point. And I see all sorts of different ranges in that category. Generally, though, over $100 an hour.
Okay, amazing. This is giving people so much clarity. It's giving me so much clarity too, but this is really good. Do you prefer, let's say you're hiring an assistant or someone that you're going to kind of part-time person. Do you prefer hourly rate or a monthly contract and they can work the predicted amount of hours?
I love retainers. I think people get more invested in the overall outcome versus tracking hours. So a retainer means like, I'm going to hire you for 40 hours a month and I'm going to pay you $4,000 for that time, right? As an example. And this is the expectations. We create clear boundaries. We can have things like core hours to make that more effective, where I have expectations that I hear back from you quickly between 9 and 12 in the morning, every morning. And so there's things that you can do to set that up for success so that you're not like, hey, I'm paying this person 40 hours and I don't know where they're at. But I do really love retainers because I think we think about the outcomes more than the hours.
So good. So good. All right. So I want to kind of switch for our final portion of today. You have a new podcast that just launched.
Yes.
You know, we've been talking about some of these things and some of these rapid fire questions. It's clear just how good you are at understanding, right? I put you on the spot and you executed. What is your podcast all about and how do we go about listening to it?
Yeah, so we went through a lot of ideation around what the heck the name was going to be, and we kept coming back to my name. So it is called the Jackie Serviss Show. It's literally about my lived experience. It's going to talk mostly about hiring and entrepreneurship and growth. And we are also going to be sharing some of my favorite people. So Jake, let's get it in the calendar and start to bring different ways of thinking and different philosophies in. So I'm a big believer in like entrepreneurship. I love talking about spirituality and just different ways of thinking and creating, things like money mindset, et cetera. So getting under the mindset kind of hack too. And then number 3, we're going to be talking a lot about how people unlock your growth in business.
I love that. I mean, so if anyone's listening right now and they just got a little teaser of who you are, what you do, the podcast is where they need to go next. Is that a fair assumption?
Come hang out. I would love to hear also, like, what do you want to hear about? If there's something that really resonates with you, let me know. I love hanging out on Instagram at Jackie Serviss. Like DMs are my thing. We'll voice note back and forth, but build relationships. Don't you feel that way? Like you can build so many epic relationships in your DMs these days. Genuine connections.
It's amazing. I mean, we connected in the DMs for a long time and we still do connect in the DMs and we just chat and like, I love hanging out in the DMs as long as I don't get sidetracked by my feed, right? Or stories. Like it's DM. I literally have on like my time tracking sheet, like a segment called DMs. And it's literally only allowed to be in the DMs. I'm not allowed to go back out of the inbox unless I'm checking somebody's profile from there, but that's it. So I think you're so right. There's so many great connections that can be had there. This podcast is exciting. And I'm really excited for people to listen to that. So if you enjoyed listening to Jackie, like, go check out this podcast. Before we start to wrap up, is there anything about hiring or about people that you want to share or leave people with for advice or just something that they can walk away with to just implement following this conversation?
Yeah, clarity first. I see so many of us be really reactive in hiring. We get to the point where we're at burnout, we're at capacity, and it just starts feeling like a grind. And my advice to you is when we have clarity on who you need to enable your growth, in what role and when, that doesn't mean you're hiring them all today. It can mean 12 months, 18 months down the road. It gives us the ability to be really proactive. And this game can be a lot of fun when we're proactive because then we go on offense, back to that sports analogy. And we're not on defense with, I know you're an LA guy, but let's just call him Tom Brady. Tom Brady coming down the field at you, right? And so that's the biggest piece of advice. I see too many of us get to the point where we're drowning before we say, hey, help, or I need help. I am saying, let's get clarity first. Let's create the roadmap. Let's actually build that out so that you can start being proactive. And the person sitting beside you at the conference might be just who you need, because the universe has a wild way of putting people in the same room together. That is exactly who you need next.
Amazing. So if somebody does want that clarity or they want to get ahead of the game, because that firsthand experience, being proactive versus reactive is a game changer. It changes everything about the way you view business, about the way you do business, the way you approach your day. It's game changing. So obviously people can go listen to the podcast, the Jackie Serviss Show, but this is what you do. So how do we connect with you? How do we learn more about what you have to offer? And how can we essentially work with you to help us find the right people in our business and find the clarity around who we need to be hiring and when we need to be doing that?
Love that. So I do people strategy sessions. They're deep dives. They're 2 hours where I'll go into your custom business, look at where you're at today and where you're going tomorrow. And I will literally create a roadmap with you in collaboration with you so that you walk away with that clarity. It's what I do. It's my jam. I love it. For me, it's like connecting the puzzle pieces, right? It's like that missing couple pieces. It's like, who do you need to enable that growth? You can hang out with me. JackieServiss.com is a great way to find out about my services. I also, again, they're all over Instagram. So if anybody wants to do a people strategy session, please let me know. And www.JackieServiss.com, you can meet me there.
Yeah, that's amazing. And for everyone, it's Serviss, Serviss. So make sure you spell that correctly. We'll link it down below. But Jackie, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Loved being here. Thank you so much for sharing your energy with me.
Come on, of course. Now, all right, you guys, that's a wrap. Jackie Serviss in the house. You already know what to do. If you need to improve your hiring, or you know that it's something that you need to think about, go schedule one of those deep dives with Jackie. Like, start being proactive. She gave us a lot from our mindset to what to hire, when to hire, how much to hire, where, what, all of the things, right? That is what this episode is all about. So make sure to go check out Jackie, check out her stuff. Let us know that you enjoyed this interview because, we're always trying to bring you the best guests to help you grow your business in a way so that you could create the dream that you've always wanted to live. So with that said, I appreciate all of you and I will see you on the next one.